Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, actually, for being here on a Friday afternoon. So kudos to you all. So I do want a round of applause for you all for being here today. Thank you. All right, so Priya Panday Shukla, she, her, Aja, and I have the honor to be today with, say hi, Ellie.
Okay, so my name is Asiri, and that's all what you need to know.
And today we are presenting on UDL and technology across the disciplines. So let's get started. I have a very short fragment of the land acknowledgement, so please go ahead and read with me if you like. So Washington State University acknowledges that its locations statewide are on the homelands of Native peoples who have lived in this region from time immemorial. The university expresses its deepest respect for and gratitude towards these original and current caretakers of the region. As an academic community, we acknowledge our responsibility to establish and maintain relationships with these tribes and Native peoples in support of tribal sovereignty and the inclusion of their voices in teaching, research, and programming. This is a very short version of the Acknowledgement of America's First People. If you would like to see the full version, please go to WSU Strategic Plan / Acknowledgement of America's First People. So a little overview of what we are going to do today. Of course, we're talking about universal design for learning, and Ellie is going to talk about Common Lit, and I will talk a bit about Google Apps. Some of them you probably use, but we just want to give you some ideas on how to use it with UDL and the resources that we will have. So, getting started. Universal design for learning, as you may all know from the beginning, from Dr. Kavita Rao's presentation this morning until Dr. Michael Dunn just a few minutes ago, you probably know a lot about it right now. But I want to ask you, how comfortable are you actually incorporating UDL into your lessons? So go ahead and either scan the QR code, which I see lots of you doing, go to the bit.ly/UDL_TEACHx, or Mazen is going to actually post a link, which you already did, for the people who are online, so you can click on that. I'm not going to give you the results right now. We're going to see it later on. We're doing our Google Slides. Now, Ali, take it away.
All right, thank you so much. I usually do not present any technologies in this format, so I'm really so sorry. I usually just like move around and just yell at you, but I can't do it now. So I will try to make this like short and sweet, and we'll see how it goes. So today I'm going to talk about Common Lit, which is, as the name suggests, it's common literature. And it's built for students from 3rd grade to 12th grade, and it's aligned with all like standards, and it's categorized by theme or the focus you are teaching, and I'm going to show you in a sec. Okay, so before that, I'm not going to go really technical today. I'm just going to try to make the connection between UDL and this website. And what I like about, I have a lot of bias. I'm really so sorry. But what I like about this is kind of like you can build your own classroom within the website. And once you build your own classroom, you can invite students to it, and you can assign readings. Along with assigned readings, you can assign questions, guiding questions for your students. Also, at the end of the entire class or an assignment, you will have a full report for each student and how they perform in your assignments. Okay, let's start talking about engagement. Okay, so what I like about Common Lit is kind of like gathering all and trying to like recruit all interests of students. So they provide a lot of readings for students and try to meet all their interest areas, and they categorize them by themes, by grade, and I'm going to show you right here. So if you want to follow along, you can go to commonlit.org, This is annoying to move back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to do it this way. So if you go to common layer, you will see and you can browse the content. And underneath that, you will see all the things that you can browse by. So you can have books, genre, you can have the level. If you are teaching a specific level, then you can select that. Also, you can go by themes. Yeah, let me show you one thing. If you open, for example, let's say themes. Let's do drama. I like drama in a good way. Okay, then if you open drama, you will find all these texts that you can assign to your students. If you already have your own classroom, you can just directly assign it to your classroom. If you don't have a classroom, you can just download all the materials for you. Let's go and select one, and I will get back to that. 14. All right. So what is Commonly is trying to do in here, just kind of like to recruit interest of a student. So it just kind of trying to make all these themes, all these genre for you to select to any topic or any subject that interests you and your students. And the good thing about that, so you don't have to have a classroom, and anyone can access this website. So students can go in there and find anything they are interested in, and they can read about it. Okay, so once you select the passage that you want to read, assign it to your classroom. So how does it help to provide multi-means of representation? And I think it's doing that in two really good ways. So the first one, you can customize the displayed information. So, and I'm going to show you here how to do it. But before that, also it provides comprehension, questions, guiding questions, activities for you. And the good thing is that you don't have to build them. They're already built for you. Let me show you what I mean by customize information. For example, if you have this reading and you want your students to read it, so students have some options in here. So for example, they can change the font size the way they like, so just to make it more accessible for them. Also, they can turn it into text-to-speech, so they can listen to the reading as it reads to them. And while it's doing so, it highlights every sentence that is reading it to them. And once they click on that, they will see the speaker icon next to the sentence. So they can just click in there and they listen to it. And once they listen to it, they can select the speed. If they find it like really fast for them, they can just reduce the speed. Or if it's really slow, they can just do it to normal. All right. That's about the text-to-speech. If they don't really like it, they can just hide it. That's okay. And the good thing, it's accessible to all students that English language is not their first language, like me. For example, they can translate. So once they click in there, they see all languages that support these text. For example, Arabic, which is my first language. So once they click in there, they will see this globe icon next to a paragraph or a sentence. Then once they click in there, they will see it in their first language, which is awesome. I tried last night to read some of them. I was like, whoa, okay, that's accurate. Some of them are like, not really, but it's okay. And I'm thinking that they use this from Google Translate. I'm not really sure. I asked them this question, but they didn't really answer me. So, okay, so once they want to translate it, they can translate. If they don't like it, they don't have to translate, so it's okay. Also, they can highlight and add notes. And the good thing is that if you have your classroom, you built your own classroom, and you assigned reading, you can see what the students highlight. And you can see and read their notes. I'm going to show you how they highlight a text. I said I'm not going to go technical, but I mean, you know. Okay, so it's Friday, just get along. Okay, so for example, if they just highlight a sentence, two options going to show up for them. So the first one is a text where they can add a note for themselves. Or if they're working with other groups or other members, they can add notes for themselves. Also, they can highlight, but under highlight, they have different colors. I remember when I had to learn English, we used a lot of like color coding, like topic sentence, do it in yellow. Details, do it in blue. Hamza, do you know that? Nod and smile. Good. Okay, so once they highlight, you will be able to see all of these functions behind that. Also, the really good thing is here is that when you assign reading or an assignment to your students, here's the thing. You can, beside assigning a reading, you can see and assign guiding questions for your students. For example, if you have a student that English is not their first language, so you can assign reading and assign guiding questions to these specific students to help them to understand the reading. How to do that? So, because I already logged in, so you just go to assign, you click assign, hopefully, yes. So when you assign it, you select your classroom, you select your students, and here under enable guided reading mode, you select if you wanted these questions, these guided questions, and they are not graded for all students or some specific students. So you already know them, you know how their English level or their reading level, then you just kind of like customize that based on their needs. Once you are done, you can assign it to them. And the good thing about this, about these guiding questions, they are not graded. So students can select multiple options, and they will see it themselves. They will see if it's correct or not. For example, so here, under this guiding question, if I go to this question and say, oh, this is the right answer. Oh, it's wrong. It's not going to grade it. It's not going to kick me out. Still, I can choose another answer and say, oh, okay, now it's correct. It's kind of like formative assessment for students because, they will not be graded on that, so it's all cool, but they will be graded, they will be graded on assessment questions. So these assessment questions, they already built there, so they will be assigned and graded based on these. Okay, I have to go back to my slides because I'm going different roads. All right. Yeah, we talked about comprehension checks. Let's see, what is this? Yeah, so this is kind of like how it support multi-means of representation by like the font and the notes they can add to. Oh, one more thing. That is interesting. Yes, so do you see these like numbers? Like within the text, these numbers to add more information to the text. Maybe it's a definition of a term. Maybe it's synonym or whatever that helps students to read or to understand this text. Carry out. Do you all see it, or is it too small? Too small. Okay, let's make it bigger. If not, we can force it to go bigger. All right. For example, number 2. Then yeah, it adds more details to the sentence or to the terminology to help students to understand the text that you are assigning to them. And at the very end, you will see some notes. You have definitions, you have footnotes that may help students to understand. It doesn't have to be applicable to all students, but some students may need this information to just understand the reading. And I know it's kind of like already built in here, but you can like take them, make activities for yourself or your students. So you don't have to, as Michael Dunn said, you don't have to glue yourself to this. You can just adopt it the way you like. And that's the point. All right, you have answer keys, you have related media to it. This is kind of like already built for you. You don't really have to use everything in here, but you can adopt it and just like as a starting point. Am I talking too much? All right. Okay, so yeah, we have to do this a lot of times. Okay, we talked about this. Okay, so how Common Let is providing multi-means of actions and expression. So if you think about using Common Let in its website and not adapted to your classroom, it has nothing to do with that. So it just there. But if you can take them, or take the questions, take the activity that they provide for you and adapt it to your classroom, like in person or online, you can have a lot of like ways to communicate between the students. They can, for example, if you put them in groups and say, okay, now your task is to highlight like a structure of a paragraph, like a topic sentence, details, any other ideas, they can work all together and they can have the social interaction between themselves and answer these questions. So it's just, I mean, I put it right here and I was like, well, it's not in Common Let, but it's kind of like main component if you think about adopting the materials to your classroom. And this is my favorite thing. So once you have your classroom, you assign readings to that classroom, students read it, what is next? And I know that like UDL, you want to build that skill that students monitor their own progress. And this is doing really good job on that. So when the students, let's say you assign 5 readings to students, like the entire semester, hopefully not one day, but then when they are done at the end, you can generate a report for every individual student, or you can do the entire class. Then it's not just you as a teacher who sees that, but the students also can see their own progress. So they would know if they are doing really good job, then they will keep doing it. But if they are struggling, you would tell and they would know, but other students will not be able to see it. But then you can help them to achieve any goals. And this is how it's presented, because I don't have students in there, so I don't have any reports for you, but this is an example of like an entire class, or from this right corner, you can select a specific student, then you can see their report. Then you can even send it to them or to their parents. I believe the last time, I mean, in a good way, Joy. Okay, so I believe the last time I talked to them, they said parents have access to Common Let. So they can see the classroom, they can see the assigned readings, they can see students' progress as well. That's being said, I'm really so sorry I said this is not the format I usually present, but good luck with that. Okay, so I will just turn it to Priya. All good? Okay. Thank you all. You want me to say it? You want to say it?
Over here. Over here.
Like specifically here.
All right. Can you all hear me properly? Yeah. I don't want to. All right. So I'm going to talk about 4 apps. You probably know all of these, but these are just ideas that I'm going to give to you. So the first 3, Translate, Forms, and Keep, I'm going to do 1 guideline, 1 checkpoint for 1 app. And the last one, Slides, I'm going to do 3 guidelines and 3 checkpoints for the same app. Remember, it's not about the app or the technology, it's how you use it. So these are just ideas and examples, and you could use it in a different way, depending on your learning outcomes. So let's start with Translate. So this is for providing multiple means of representation. Guideline 2, provide options for language and symbols. Checkpoint 2.4, promote understanding across languages. So doesn't matter which classroom you are, but usually you may have 1 or 2 English language learners, students who are actually from multilingual background, heritage language speakers, and often, even though we may have a high language, or we are proficient in one of the language, we always want to see probably sometime the information in our first language. And sometimes I even forget words here and there. So what do we do? Sorry, we just go to Google Translate and we write the words that we are looking for. As Ali was saying, ideally we will be modeling this for you, but due to time constraints and because we want to show lots of things and other things, I have a GIF for you, so it's going to be rolling there all the time. So as you can see, we have it in one language. I have Spanish writing the word golosina, and when I write it, I can get the pronunciation for it. I can actually use voice typing for it and see what's the translation in English, which is actually candy. But that probably all of you know about because you're most likely use it. However, did you know that you can actually do full documents, articles, web pages by using Google Translate, which you can actually access either straight from Google or, as you can see here, from the waffle menu when you are in your Gmail. Another thing that you can do, which is super cool, is that you can actually point your camera, if you have the app, to anything that you bring to classroom. This is wafer, or you can see obleas, and point it so you can know what it is in your language. Somebody may be saying, okay, but that says Google Lens, Priya, not Google Translate. Well, Google had an update 2 weeks ago, and now they are using Lens for the translation, so that is why that is there. I'm using Aurelia here, but imagine if you have your regular textbook, you can actually point it to it and actually get that translation for that specific place that you have there. So this is very useful, at least for us who actually have a second, third, fourth, fifth language. So let's move on. So multiple means of engagement. Guideline, I'm so sorry. Guideline 9, provide options for self-regulation, which ties in checkpoint 9.3, developing self-assessment and reflection. So it's important for students to somehow regulate their learning, how they're doing, and they can do that by reflecting on their learning. That is one way of doing it. This is how I created the forms that you actually responded. And I'm just showing you that currently there is no response because I was creating it. And then what I did is that I took the URL to try it. And what I did is that obviously I opened an incognito mode to try it out. And then when I did that, I, of course, selected my option the same way that you all did. And then I will show you what I did next. Because I'm talking faster than what is going on here. So I selected my option, I submitted it, and then I went back to my forms to see that there was a response. There is a graphic created, which I will copy, and then Ali, could you update, please? Thank you. And Ali is going to update this for us.
You say it's going to show? Yep.
Oh, there. And for some reason, it did not work. But these things usually happen, and I was expecting it not to work. So this happens sometime, and I'm actually glad it happened because of this. It's wonderful when everything works out, and our students are like, okay, wonderful, but it didn't work. So that's where we actually troubleshoot with them. And in this case, I cannot troubleshoot because it's Ali who is actually signing into this. Ali creating trouble all the time. So, but usually what will happen is that the reason we went into this mode here is that in this section here, I don't know if you can see the pointer, you will see here and here, it's supposed to say update. And then, no, I cannot open this, no, that's not gonna work.
That's all right.
You will see what you voted and where was everyone. So people can see like, okay, I am here, maybe I'm 1 on how much I know UDL, or maybe I'm actually 4, I'm doing actually great. Really wanted to see the graphic, that didn't happen, but this usually updates. So, learning things for me here. So, multiple B's of action and expression. Google Keep, I don't know if you use this one. Guideline 6, provide options for executive functions. Checkpoint 6.4, enhance capacity for monitoring progress. So sometimes when we give students projects or things to do. If it's a very large project, it's actually nice to actually break it down into smaller chunks so they can actually do pieces of it. And a nice way for them to actually do it is by actually using Google Keep. So Google Keep is, you can take notes, you can make a list as is there, and you can check the boxes when they are completed. This is something you can actually share with your teacher if you're a student. And then when you share it, your teacher can say, okay, in this case, this is all in Spanish, by the way. So your teacher can check that you're actually doing the sequence the way it's supposed to be done. Maybe the teacher can change things around. And also, you can see the progress of your student of what they are doing. Let me move on with this. Now let's go on with slides. So Google Slides, as I mentioned, is going to have three things that we are going to use it for. One, I think this is my favorite out of all. So it's guideline 1, provide options for perception. Checkpoint 1.1, offer ways of customizing display of information. So often, when we have a regular textbook, the information is just there. We cannot do anything with it. And we don't really need technology for UDL, but definitely makes it more effective. And this is a nice way to do that, because with this guidelines and slides, what you can actually do is to offer your students an option to take notes on the slides, probably change the fonts on the slide, and do different things with it to make it understandable and customizable to them. And how are we going to do that? Well, this is the way we do that. For some reason, it's starting from the back, but it's a GIF. So you do it the same way. You share your slides. You have to make it, actually, anyone with the link. You're going to give editor privileges, and you will create a disaster because everybody will change your slides. No, there is a tip for you to change. And this is the important part that you have to actually remember. Once you paste it in the URL, pay attention to that place where it's kind of zooming in. It says edit. So they can no longer edit. They will have to copy it. So pretty much you're forcing your students to make a copy of your slides. So they will have their own version of the slide where they can make changes as much as they want, but your original slide stays the same. So they can change the font. Maybe they don't like my white background. They may change it to a black background with lighter fonts, different things, and make notes directly there. So that's an option. It's one of my favorites. All right, another guideline using slides. So guideline 5, provide options for expression and communication. Checkpoint 5.1, usable multiple media for communication. So this one we want to be a bit cautious about. Sometimes we say, okay, we can do it this way, we can do it that way. Slides offers that flexibility, but it all ties in back again to what is your learning outcomes. If your learning outcome is that your students actually need to submit something which is written, then it's something that is written. However, if your learning outcome is students will present a project of their favorite sports, you are giving them options there that they could probably make that a video. They could probably just talk about it via audio. And you have all that option right there in slides. Maybe they just want to make a graphic and put things together to express, to show what they knew. So when you allow them to do that, that's where we get into engagement. So guideline 7, provide options for recruitment of interest. Checkpoint 7.2, optimize relevance, value, and authenticity. So one way of getting students motivated is probably allowing them to ask the questions they want to ask when they want to ask it. So if you realize most in our classrooms, we will have probably 4 students who will be always talking. I will answer, I will talk, and the rest of the 20 You will hear nothing about them. Well, if you are Zoom, sometime people will simply send you a private message, and you will get a question from them, and that's their way of engaging. What do you do when you're actually in person? So if you're in person, one thing that you can do, you can have your slides on, and then what you do simply is that, when my thing goes back where it's supposed to be, I'll show you. You go to slideshow, you go to presenter view, and then at the top it says audience tools. You click on that. You say start new, and it will give you a URL which you will share with your students. And there, students can actually post questions, and they can do that question anonymously, or they can put their name, whatever makes their heart happy. And that you have a way of your students engaging with you. And the best thing is that because you are live doing that, it will be showing on the slides at that moment that question which was posed there. And you can play around with that and do different things. So these are little tips and tricks that we have for Google Apps. And these are just ideas. You can use it in a total different way. So hopefully these were some good tips and tricks which are there. And hopefully with all you got about UDL today, you are excited probably about building some flexibility in your learning experiences that you're designing, and hopefully it was inspirational. So thank you. We're ready for questions for Common Lit or Google Apps. Thank you.